what is wrong? So what led you to therapy? And then they will just tell me briefly, okay, no, I have, for example, relationship issues.
Yeah.
Now the person doesn't want to say exactly, okay, what's happening? Okay, what led you to
Ah,
realize that the relationship is not okay, or what are the stumbling blocks? The person will just give one word answers, and now, it's
oh
so
no.
difficult.
Yeah, then it becomes challenging and it sort of becomes like a guessing game for you,
Yes,
which makes
yes.
your job so much harder. And I
Mhm,
guess that's also the thing with therapy.
mhm,
And I've said this so many times on episodes where I've spoken about my own personal journey with therapy, is you have to want it and you
mhm,
have to
mhm.
go into it with an open mind.
Yes.
And even when the therapist is prompting you and wanting you to peel back the layers even more, you
Mhm.
have to want to go there. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that's the thing about
Definitely.
therapy. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you feel like, oh my goodness, I feel a bit naked. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Hi, community. Welcome or welcome back to A Cupful. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I am not alone, which is why I said us. I am joined by a lovely young lady who is going to be adding so much value to today's conversation, and I'm really, really excited about it. Today, we're diving into a heartfelt conversation on how childhood trauma affects us and how therapy can help us heal from within. And joining me is Mmampho, a passionate young psychotherapist focused on helping people heal and thrive. Mmampho, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd
Thank
love for
you.
you to introduce yourself to our listeners and let us know what drew you into therapy, especially at such a young age.
Okay. So my name is Mmampho Tswene. Um, I am a psychotherapist. I studied social work. I didn't think I would actually
Hmm?
make it into psychotherapy, but I think that's where my passion lied. Um, I am a daughter, a friend, a sister,
I
um,
love it.
a therapist,
Uh huh.
as well as, yeah, I'm a member in a good community. So what drew me into therapy? I think it was more of a purpose-led thing. I didn't want to study social work. I didn't see myself doing anything that had to do with talking to people. Um, my or what I thought was my passion in high school was dentistry, and
Oh,
um,
wow.
had a bit of stumbling blocks in terms of my high schooling and my academics. And I thought, okay, maybe I don't qualify for dentistry, but in matric, my teacher told me that, oh no, you can still do it, although you don't have maybe pure maths or whatever. And I applied, and funny enough, my second choice, I put social work as it. I don't remember doing that until they didn't
Oh,
take
wow.
me until they didn't take me for my first choice, which was dentistry, and then I got in for social work. So I only applied at two universities. I don't know why I would do that, but I only applied at two universities. And obviously the
Don't
first
worry,
one,
same.
yes.
Don't worry, same.
So the first one didn't take me, obviously, and the second one, it was just like, let's just, let her in, shame man. And they
Oh,
put
no.
me in for my second option. And I was like, okay, let me go in and then maybe I can change. I got in and I dreaded my first year. I hated it, but I was so good at it. Like I was doing well, I was excelling, but I was so depressed because I felt this is not me. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And I had measures in place to change for my second year, go to a different university, all that gist. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just didn't happen that way. I continued and I realized that, okay, no, this is who I am. This is who I've been, and this is more or
Yeah.
less my purpose. So that's what led me into therapy. Yeah, I didn't know what social work was
Mhm.
until I got into the uh, degree and I learned all about it. But then I realized that I don't want to do it the way they say we have to do it. So therapy was
Yeah.
one of the things that I really wanted to do. And I knew you can get into therapy in many different ways, whether through social work, through psychology, through what's this? Being a registered counselor. So through studying social sciences. So there's many different ways you can get into it. So yeah, and that's how I got in, by studying social work. And yeah.
Wow. What a journey. What an interesting journey. A journey you hadn't really expected,
Yes,
but that nonetheless happened, and it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because then you have
definitely.
gone on to do such purpose-driven work that changes people's lives for the better. And I think that
Mhm.
it's just so amazing that even when the plans that we have for ourselves don't go accordingly, there is always a reason for it. And it's so beautiful that this is where you are right now, helping people. And I guess for anyone that's listening, that's also experiencing a similar thing, because a lot of the listeners, some of the listeners are making that transition from high school into university, and maybe
Yes.
someone can resonate with your story. I
Mhm.
think it can also give them a lot of hope and give them a lot of encouragement that things will work themselves out. And that's something I'm learning a lot about now as I get older, that things always work out. They have a way of
Me
working out.
too.
So yeah, let
Mhm.
your story be a testament to that.
Mhm.
And before we get into the actual episode, I want us to do a little bit of an icebreaker. Just one question that I have for you.
Okay.
What's one myth about therapy you wish more people knew wasn't true?
Um, I think I will say about therapists and not about
Mm,
therapy, but
okay.
it's more in
Okay,
line.
okay.
I wish people knew that we cannot read their minds. Ugh, I
Ooh.
hate this so much. And
Okay, so tell us about it.
you find it a lot in men who come to therapy, where it's like they
Oh,
want you
okay.
to decipher what is wrong with them. Like you know
Ah,
how with men, it's they're so different from us women. We are so emotionally led. We are able to articulate our emotions, and we wear our
absolutely.
heart on our sleeves, so
Yeah,
if I'm not okay as a woman, you will know. If I'm sad, I'm angry, there's many
yeah.
different ways we can show that. But for them, it's so difficult for them to be in touch with their emotions. So when they come to therapy,
Mm,
they try so much to hold back emotions. And with that, like now I'll be sitting there and I'm just like, okay, so Mr. Sir, what is wrong? So what led you to therapy? And then they will just tell me briefly, okay, no, I have, for example, relationship issues.
yeah.
Now the person doesn't want to say exactly, okay, what's happening? Okay, what led you to
Ah,
realize that the relationship is not okay, or what are the stumbling blocks? The person will just give one word answers, and now it's
oh
so
no.
difficult.
Yeah, then it becomes challenging, and it sort of becomes like a guessing game for you,
Yes,
which makes
yes.
your job so much harder. And
Mhm,
I guess that's also the thing with therapy.
mhm,
And I've said this so many times on episodes where I've spoken about my own personal journey with therapy, is you have to want it and you
mhm,
have to
mhm.
go into it with an open mind.
Yes.
And even when the therapist is prompting you and wanting you to peel back the layers even more, you
Mhm.
have to want to go there. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that's the thing about
Definitely.
therapy. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you feel like, oh my goodness, I feel a bit naked. You know what
Yes.
I mean? But if you are going to go into it, you need to go into it with the
Fully,
most open mind.
you
Yeah,
need to go
fully,
into it
absolutely,
fully. And I
absolutely.
like that you say with an open mind. Don't
Mm,
my client the other day was saying that um she was anticipating, okay, I need to make sure I don't say this. I need to make sure I don't do this.
oh yes,
What
I've
type
been
of
there. I've
person?
been there. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
I've been
all of
there.
that,
I've been there.
but it's normal. I mean, it's like talking to someone you don't know for the first time. And now with a therapist, you
Yeah,
letting them in on parts that you yourself feel uncomfortable to even let yourself in. And now it's
yeah,
like you said, it's like being stripped off all your clothes, and now you just have to
absolutely.
be bare and let it all out. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a misconception that people have, that we can read minds or we have all the answers. So yeah, but it's not like that. We're just there to lead you guys, to guide you guys into healing,
Mhm.
basically. And you can only do that for yourself.
Ooh, I love that. That's so true. That is absolutely true. And hopefully today we can help people understand how they can take that leading and
Mhm.
make it work in their favor. And just getting into the meat of the episode, the thick of things,
Mhm.
we are going to be talking about how talk therapy can help us heal through childhood trauma. But I always like to start at the beginning of things so
Mhm.
that when we have the conversation, we are having it in steps and there isn't that confusion. So
Okay.
my first thing that I want to just get into is that what
Yes.
actually is childhood trauma? A lot of people think it's only tied to extreme events.
Mm.
And before I started to recognize that a lot of the things that happened to me in childhood were traumatic,
Yes.
I was downplaying them because they were not extreme events. I
Mhm.
was not being starved to death. I never
Yes.
went through a winter or a summer or an autumn or a spring without clothes. I
Mm.
didn't not ever have a roof over my head. And so we will look at things that they need to be happening in extremes for them to be a traumatic event.
Mhm.
But let's hear from you. What
Hmm. So obviously in my journey to getting into therapies, these things are, or such concepts, we learn about them, we dissect them, we research on them. And based on most of the research that I've done and also being in the field firsthand, I think for me, what I can define childhood trauma as is basically any event that happened to you in childhood. It could be mild, it could be adverse, but if this event caused you distress, whether it's emotionally, it's physically, it's cognitively, and if it has caused long lasting effects on you. So, be
yeah,
it you still remember it even today, it still makes you feel uncomfortable, you know, um, where as a child going into adulthood, this event keeps playing in different aspects of your life, be it in your
yeah,
relationships, your friendships, your educational settings. I think I deem that as a childhood trauma. So any event that has affected you, sorry, emotionally, cognitively, physically, and whether it be mild, something small or something really adverse, like you mentioned, not having clothes or being neglected or
yeah,
not being fed. But it doesn't have to be so adverse. It doesn't have to be so big. Even something
yeah,
small, like someone saying something to you that didn't sit
yeah,
well with you, that
yeah.
can also be a childhood trauma. So I
Mm.
think, yeah, that's what I would define it as: an event that happened to you as a child, that has caused long lasting effects to you from childhood into adulthood.
Yeah, my goodness. And that's also a conversation that we need to have more of.
Mhm.
That it can be something as small as something that somebody said to you, because
Yes.
words can also be very, very harmful.
Hmm.
What we say is very powerful, especially what we say to little people.
Hmm.
And we just have to be extremely mindful. And that's why it's so important for parents to also work on their own experiences, their own traumatic
Yes.
experiences are also
Mhm.
going to project that onto their children.
Oh, it
And
becomes a cycle, a long-lasting
yeah,
cycle now. Mhm.
yes, absolutely. And we see that quite a lot in
Mhm.
society, in communities, where it is a continuous cycle and
Yes.
this thing is built on, it's built onto, there's like a foundation created where it's built and it grows and it grows and it grows.
Mhm.
And then at some point or another, it just causes so much harm. I mean, it continues to cause harm as it grows, but then
Mhm.
eventually it just causes irreparable damage. And we don't want that. And I also
Yes.
say all the time that we are so fortunate to be living in this decade. We are
Mhm.
fortunate to be living in this era, in this time where we have access to so much educational resources, these conversations that are happening on social media, just access to therapy.
Mhm.
And just, I'm grateful that this is the time that we live in because our grandmothers, great grandmothers, great grandmothers just did not have this at their disposal. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I also know that it can sometimes be a bit challenging to be able to identify what a trauma response is and
Mhm.
what a trauma response is not, or what trauma looks like and what it doesn't look like.
Mhm.
And that's the next thing I want to ask you. What are some common ways trauma shows up in our adult lives without us realizing it?
I think anxiety is the biggest one, hey?
Oh,
Um,
yes.
Especially in adult life. And sometimes we ask ourselves, where did this come from? Why am I feeling nervous? Maybe to speak in a crowd. Why am I anxious to go to a certain place? All of these
Yes.
things. And you find that there's something that happened to you as a child that like we mentioned about someone saying something. Most of the time that's your words. You know how they speak about
Mm,
words being something to be cognizant of. Don't just say
yes.
things. You
Yeah.
can do something and I can forget, but words often stick. So you find that
Mm,
in your childhood you went somewhere and you were dressed a certain way and someone said something. We have those aunties who
oh,
will say
yes.
things to you. And ever
Who
since
doesn't know?
then, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
ever since then, you've been so, like, so picky about, okay, if I wear this, how are people going to perceive me? If I do this, what are people going to think? Things like that. So, anxiety is the most common one, a
Mm,
common indicator of trauma. um, PTSD as well, but that's with adverse trauma.
okay.
How we navigate our relationships, friendships.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend. We always have these conversations, and the other day she was asking, "Do you think we're trauma bonding?" And I was like, maybe we
Oh my
are,
gosh.
you know?
Yeah.
But she even posted yesterday that Mmampho and I always have something we are unpacking. And just looking at how you relate to certain people can indicate whether this is a traumatic response.
Oh,
Do you
yes.
have friends that don't see you, but you're still with them? And maybe it's because you were not seen in your childhood. And that's all you know. You don't know how to decipher what a real friendship is or a real
Mm,
relationship or what love is, because of
yeah.
seeing it modeled to you in childhood, specifically in a certain way. For example, with someone who has went through domestic violence.
Yeah.
Having someone abuse you or control you, and maybe they told you that I do this to your mom because I love them, then if you haven't worked on that, then you can easily misconceive love as someone who controls you, but think of it
Sure. Yes.
as they control me, or they always check up on me because they care about me, but really it's
Yeah.
not like that. So trauma in adulthood manifests in so many ways, and I see it in me as well. Where you tend to become a perfectionist, um, which is ironic, but I'm a perfectionist that procrastinates. Um, and that's because I don't believe that I can do something right, but I want to do it right. So I
Sure.
overthink it a lot first. That's how I procrastinate. And then
Yeah.
once it's too late to, like, once it's the last minute, then I know I have to do it. Now I don't have time to overthink it. And I try to do it
Yeah.
as perfectly as possible, but time is just not on my side. So yeah, trauma can manifest in many different ways in adulthood, many different ways. You can't just pinpoint it to one. It can
One.
manifest
Mm.
in the things you eat, the things you do. And I remember I was telling my sister the other day that food also is an indicator of trauma,
Oh
especially
yes,
if
I've
yes.
yes, yes, I've learned, I've seen, I've
Mhm.
learned. Yeah.
And it
Yeah, absolutely.
depends. It depends on, is it traumatic because you didn't have much back then, and so now you want to make sure you have as much as you can, or maybe you
Sure.
had so much that it became so overwhelming, and now you want to make sure that you don't, like, you feel like you're going to be too dependent on it, so you don't want to have as much of it, especially in clients who are bulimic. I think that's the word. um
Yes, yes.
yes, that is trauma. uh Being like that is a traumatic response to either something
Mm.
that happened to you. So yeah, I can go on and on, but yeah, there's a lot of things that can indicate um that you've had a traumatic experience, and it can either actually, oh, it can, how can I put it? It can deter you. Trauma can deter you in life,
Yeah,
but also it
absolutely.
can make you as well. It can make you who you are. It depends how you approach it.
I guess then it's just that a perspective thing because just as you've been speaking,
Mhm.
I am somebody that has come from a place,
Mhm.
come from a household where I had to audition for my father's love and his
Okay.
approval. And he
Mhm.
only loved me and only approved of me when I
Mhm.
was doing extremely well. And so I
Mhm.
am too somebody who is very much wanting to do things and do them well, excellence,
Mhm.
overachieving.
Yes.
And then also just making sure that everything is perfect all the time. And
Mhm.
I remember when I look back and I just reflect on romantic encounters, romantic relationship, I used to feel the need to audition for partners' love.
Mhm.
And whether I was doing that through spending money or
Yes.
overstretching myself emotionally
Mm.
and just constantly giving, that's how my trauma was showing up. And I just think about how right now I have become a completely different person
Mhm.
because obviously I've had support and love, but just therapy and talking to somebody who is trained and who has an understanding and who was able to explain things to me in layman's term
Mhm.
and help me understand what was going on in my head has brought me to a place where trauma has now become the thing that is not controlling me anymore or the reason why I'm hurting anymore, but it's the reason why I'm able to share my story and to show up and be vulnerable and be honest and have boundaries. Like I have boundaries now.
Mhm.
Despite the things that I've been through, I am able to stand up for myself now. I'm able to say, this is not working.
Yes.
This is not working.
You're
And
able to
I'm
say
walking
no.
away. Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
So you are so right. It's a big perspective thing. I know that I could still be in the bad, could still be right now. I could still be in the bad place that I was in, but that's not the case for me anymore. And I know there's a therapist that I've listened to her podcast a few times. She always says that our healing is our responsibility. Of course,
Yes,
the people that caused it,
definitely.
they are in the wrong, and we are not taking that away.
Hmm.
But as an adult, you are then responsible. You are the one in charge of making sure that you get to a better place.
Hmm.
And so perspective then becomes a really big thing.
Hmm. No, I hear you, and you are quite right. Especially when it comes to auditioning, for someone's love and
Yeah.
overextending yourself.
Yeah.
And we don't even overextend ourselves only in relationships, in
Oh no.
everything. Be it
Oh
at
yes.
work, there's certain things that
Yes.
are not in your scope, but you'll want to do
Yes.
it, to show that
Yeah.
you're competent in this,
So
because we've
true.
always had to prove ourselves to certain people, growing up, prove that I can do this. Maybe there was, especially in for me, it was with regards to my siblings. So
Mm,
I have a sister, an older sister, but she's technically my aunt,
okay.
but my mom raised her. So I love her so much. She was, or maybe I should say, I deemed her as the Beyonce of the family,
Mm,
everything we knew it from her. We learned about certain things from her. She's quite smart, very smart.
yeah.
So for me, it felt like I was not seen, and that's where the overextending myself came in. That's where I wanted to prove that I can also be like her. I can also be
Yeah.
smart. I can also do things. I can also know things. And it like with trauma, it doesn't have to be about something that also people did to you, but like I said, an event that happened.
Mm,
So something that for you it felt uncomfortable, something that felt like I'm not being seen. That is a traumatic experience, because then you will want to constantly prove yourself because you feel in the shadows of someone else.
yeah.
And that person
Yeah.
doesn't know that they were making you feel like that. They don't know that they were doing that. Chances are they were not even doing that, intentionally, maybe. So,
Mm,
and then I think that's where my overachiever sense of self came in, where it's like I wanted to always excel, to always make sure that I have something going on, just to prove that,
mm,
you know what, I'm also worthy of being um someone profound in the family. I'm also worthy of you
yeah.
guys seeing me as well. So
Yeah.
so yeah, there's many different things that can contribute to trauma, and that can manifest in our adulthood. But talk therapy it's very important. It's very, very
Mm,
important, and it's our responsibility. I don't think we should place it on other people. Yes, we have people who are guiding us, like you mentioned, that you've watched some therapists, or is it a psychologist? You've watched her. Is it
yeah.
a podcast?
Yeah. Yeah, I've watched a few podcasts and
Hmm.
read up on quite a few articles, just reading up on talk therapy, the value of it. And even though it doesn't work for everyone, we are aware of that. It does still work for quite a lot of people. And so it's really important to encourage people to give it a try. And if it works for you, then it does. And if it doesn't, then you can try other avenues, obviously.
And I think with talk therapy, there's quite a lot to consider.
Yeah.
Considering the trauma, is it an adverse, was it something mild or
Yes.
really hectic? I think if it was something that was really, really hectic, um talk therapy isn't for you. There's a lot of
Mm,
other things that you need to do. And that's why you would find someone who gets into therapy, assuming that it'll only just be talk therapy. And then we realize that there's so much that this person has been through,
yeah.
especially with suicidal patients or clients. You can't
Mm,
expect talk therapy to work, like only
yeah.
talk therapy. Um, there's so many things that have to be involved. There's so many people that have to be involved when it comes to um, the mental health. Aspect of working with people, you can't work isolated. We need to
Yeah.
work with psychiatrists, we need to work with psychologists, clinical psychologists, I mean. We need to work with doctors, a lot of people
Yeah.
to make sure that this individual is helped holistically. Um,
Mm,
that's why you would find that people get admitted to mental health institutions or mental health institutions, and where they get the holistic help that they need, be put on medication, be monitored on a daily basis for a specific amount of days. This is to make sure that this person is regulated for those amount of days, regulated in a sense that whatever that they have been going through that is making them give up, or feel like they want to commit suicide, or be it what's this, uh self-harming, monitoring such things to make sure that they are actually helped and they are actually okay, so yeah, talk therapy is good, it works for other people, but it does not work for all of us. And also it depends on the type of trauma that you experienced. And you've said you've been working on yourself, right? You've been working on the things that you've been through. So it's quite
yeah.
important to also detect early that, okay, I'm not okay. This is what's happening. So the more you prolong it, the more you add, the more you add to it.
Mm,
I want to quickly tell you
yeah.
an analogy. I used to tell, because I work with children as well. So I used to give the children this analogy about trauma. So imagine a mayonnaise jar, right? So this is the Croissant Blackwell mayonnaise jar. I'm sure you know it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
I do.
So it's the one with the green cap. So you know
Yes.
how with that mayonnaise jar, the moment you buy it and you want to use it, when you open it, what happens to that green cap?
It pops.
It pops, yes. And that's how you know it's opened, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So immediately after it pops, let's say you don't use it. You open it, it pops. You take that
Mm-hmm.
mayonnaise jar, you put it on the windowsill for
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years. They say we need to put in the fridge after use,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but you put it on the windowsill for years. The sun keeps shining on it,
Mm.
for many years. What do you think is going to happen to that mayonnaise in the next 30 years?
Oh my gosh, that would not be edible anymore. The
Mm-hmm.
mayonnaise itself, it would be rotten and smelly, and maybe not even, it probably won't even be in its original form anymore. Maybe it would be watery,
Yes.
maybe it would
Mm-hmm.
be clumpy and
Moldy.
dry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, with
And there'll
like
be so much
maggots
going on
coming out of
inside.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. So that's how I view trauma. So the moment a traumatic experience happens for you, that cap is opened, it pops, right? And
Yeah.
when that pops, what we need to do is we need to seek help. We need to realize that, okay, there's something that happened to me and I'm not okay. That cap has popped now. It's opened now. Um, there's something that I need to do about this. So be it going for talk therapy, be it having people that you can talk to, be it self-help what's this methods, you're listening to podcasts, you're journaling, your shadow work, certain things that you will do in order for you to deal with that trauma. So for me, dealing with the trauma is like taking that mayonnaise every single day and putting it on your bread, putting it on your eggs, putting it in your potato salads, putting it in whatever
Mm,
that you can do. And
yes,
you know how the
yes.
mayonnaise is so diverse. You can use it as a marinade for your chicken. You can use it for so many things, even for desserts, apparently. So the moment you
Yeah,
keep
that's
doing
true. The
that,
desserts thing is true. The desserts
yes.
thing is true.
So the moment you keep using that mayonnaise, which is you seeking help, um, what happens to the mayonnaise when you use it every day? It's going to finish, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And once it finishes, you are able to wash this glass bottle. And after washing it, you can use it for many different things. It can be a canister, you can use it for arts and crafts. So it becomes useful again. You see, so it's like us.
Wow.
Once we go through therapy, once we
Yeah.
take the intention into healing, then we become very much useful in many of our relationships. We are able to now help others because we've done it. We know how it is. We've been through it. So we are able to lend that help, be it by um, telling someone that, oh, actually, I've been to therapy and I've got a therapist that's good. You can go and try
Mm,
it. Or I've listened to this
yeah,
podcast. You can try it. Or I've read this book, or also
yeah,
listening to the person because your cup is full. You're able to pour into someone else now.
yes,
So
absolutely.
that's
I
just
couldn't
my
agree more.
analogy of trauma. The
Wow.
mayonnaise jar.
Okay, so you shared this analogy and you have just explained how we can look at trauma and then how we can approach dealing with it. And we've also spoken about the indications that you are responding in life from a place of being traumatized.
Hmm.
And now, obviously, with the purpose of this episode, just getting into the importance or the value of talk therapy, I think that sometimes people can think that talk therapy is just sitting across from a therapist, sitting across from a psychologist, and talking about our problems, right? But
Hmm.
I want to hear from you. What's your take on how talk therapy actually supports healing? Because a lot of people, I mean, in our community as Black people, a lot of people will always liken going to a therapist with being insane, mentally
Yes.
unstable. And so there is that stigma as well, even growing up, that's what you would hear from the elders around
Hmm.
you. I used to hear it a lot that that person they are mentally unwell. That's why they are speaking to somebody. And you could tell that the adults didn't want to be perceived as mentally unwell, and we know that this is a misconception, but it's also something that many of us were raised on, that talking to somebody else who is a professional means that you are mentally unwell, and it's not good to be perceived as mentally unwell. People won't want to be around you. So that's obviously not true, but then let's get into just unpack what it looks like, how it will be helpful when you sit across from a professional and talk to them. How can that aid in your healing?
Hmm. Yeah, I think what you just explained also is the common misconceptions that go along with talk therapy or therapy as a whole.
Yeah.
And it seems as though as Black people we believe therapy is westernized. It's for the
Oh,
the other
yes,
colors, not for us.
yes, yes,
But I think talk therapy is so profound and it is so welcoming, because this is where you unpack with a trained individual, um, your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, in order to
yeah,
identify the challenging negative patterns that you are going through, or looking at developing coping strategies to
Mm.
whether it be stress, whether it be anxiety, or whatever that you might be going through at that moment, as well as helping you to improve relationships. Yeah, I realize that a lot of people don't understand what attachment is, what attachment styles are actually,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
such things we get to learn about them in therapy,
Mm.
or maybe by watching certain things where you find these trained individuals speaking about these things. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it helps to improve your relationships, and not only romantic relationships, but every kind of relationship that you are in, your friendships,
yeah,
your family, relationships with coworkers. Yeah, and also it helps you increase your self awareness. You understand more now why you do certain things, or why you feel a certain way. You understand
absolutely.
that when someone reacts to you in a certain way, and you feel this way, it's because, oh, it's a trigger.
Mm.
Someone once did this to me, and now if this person doing it again or saying it in this manner triggers me, you know and yeah, I think it's something that is very important. I think I would want everyone to have an experience of talk therapy in their life.
Yeah.
It is whether it be a child, or it be an adult, or even an elderly person. I've seen at the practice that I work in, even
Mm.
elderly people come to therapy now,
Wow.
so,
I
and
love that.
yeah, and black elderly people. Funny
Wow.
thing,
That's
the
beautiful.
oldest client that I've had was a black male who was in his 50s.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
Yes.
beautiful. Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
And it was so challenging. I think this was the most challenging um part of my career, or journey in my
Mm,
career,
mm,
because
mm.
it's so easy to talk to someone who's your age. You can relate to them. Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. What I was about to say as well is that talk therapy helps you to also find someone who can relate to you in certain things, but they will approach it in a professional manner, because they are trained,
Yeah,
right? So it's not going
absolutely
to be.
tactful. They're gonna be tactful. Mm.
Yes, it's not going to be like a
Yeah,
friend who will just validate you.
yeah, that's
But
true.
talk therapy does validate you as well. So going back to my elderly client, yeah, we
Yeah.
we we had to unpack so much. Yeah, it was quite difficult for me, and I can imagine
Mm.
if it was difficult for him now, having um a therapist who is half his age, and
Mm-hmm.
having to receive help from this young individual, a woman
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
But it was so impactful for him that I think I after that, I had three of his children come to therapy with me now.
Wow. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. That is so beautiful, Mampo.
Mhm.
And it's just wow, it makes my heart happy. My heart is so happy right now because we know how much of a struggle it is to firstly stand up and say, I have a problem, I need help. But then to
Yes.
do it as somebody who is much older and who grew up
Mhm.
in a different time. And also, I know that it's easy to say, oh my gosh, why can't someone just stand up and do it? Why can't they
Mhm.
just realize they have a problem? But the thing is, that's not how the brain works. And
Mhm.
that's something that I realized when I was reading What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey,
I
that
have the
our
book here
brain
with me.
Oh, wow. I love
Yes.
that. So do I. But when our brains are wired a certain way, it's going to take some time for them to become rewired in the
Yes.
new way. And so the brain is also a center on its own
Mm.
that requires work and patience and time. And so to hear that somebody who is 50 years old, whose brain, whose ideas, their thoughts, the cultures and traditions that they were immersed in, that they've become shaped in a certain way, have said, you know what, I wanna step forward and I want to try to figure this out. I want so much more for myself and I want so much more for my children. I think that it's so, so beautiful. And just actually on that note, I did also want to ask about, you have different clients, you work with
Yes.
different people, but just talking about starting at the root of a thing and just getting a person to peel back the layers. Could you talk a bit about inner child healing and what does that look like in a session? Because that is it's a starting point. It always will be.
Hmm.
We are shaped by a lot of the things that happened in our childhoods. And so that's always going to be a place where we need to start.
Hmm. I think inner child healing goes hand in hand with shadow work. And I learned about shadow work, I think it was a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's more of I don't want to say triggering yourself, but placing yourself back there,
Okay, okay,
um, in order to feel again what you
okay,
felt back then, you know?
okay.
And that has to do with inner child healing as well. Um, you need to revisit exactly the
Mm,
source or the root of that trauma. What
yeah.
caused the trauma? How did it
Mm,
feel? What were your surroundings? What was happening? And with
mm,
that, you can then be able to understand your triggers now as an adult. Maybe a
yeah,
certain environment triggers you. The other day, when I went to go do my hair, I went back into the area I used to live in high school.
mm,
And I was so triggered. I didn't
sure.
understand why. I was triggered because I was thinking of the things that I went through or the things that I
Yeah.
put myself through in in in
Mm,
in high school. And with inner child healing, revisiting a certain event or a certain place constantly helps you
yeah.
to it's like reinforcement. It helps you to let yourself not feel it anymore or let it not have an effect on you as much, but there's many other things you need to do as well. There's a lot. Journaling is quite an important factor, just looking at one of them. Journaling is very important. Being able to process your emotions, being able to process your thoughts. um,
Yeah.
and I always encourage my clients to journal because remember, with talk therapy, it helps you for that hour. And I can give you tips for what to do when you get back home or when you go out there.
Mm,
But
that is so good.
it's limited to that hour. So it what you do after that hour is up to you, and it's what can actually help you. So with regards to journaling, remember there are days where now you're in a situation where you feel triggered, and it's like you're thinking, if only I can just talk to my therapist right now. But
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
possible. So in order
yeah.
to get out of your head, to get out of your emotions, you can write them down, because writing them down is basically taking them out of you, you know? Um
Mm,
so yeah, with inner child healing, it's so important to go back and also speak to some of the people that were there when you went through those things. For me, I speak to my mom a lot. So I went through emotional abuse because of witnessing domestic violence. So
sure. I'm so sorry about that.
it's okay. I've worked through that, especially in my
Yeah.
childhood. I went to therapy as a child. Um,
Mm,
I've been doing the work now as well. But for now, I haven't been to therapy for that
mm,
aspect of my life, which I think I also need to revisit that because it manifests itself in a lot of my relationships. So going back to the fact that I said you need to also speak to the people who were there or who were involved. So speaking to
Yeah.
my mom helps me a lot, telling her
Yeah.
about the fact that this is what I'm going through. This is how it felt. Sometimes we also joke about certain things, that are
Yeah.
not, we shouldn't even be joking about them, but sometimes that's how other people approach trauma, not wanting to make it sound so serious, and because
Mm.
maybe if you make it sound so serious, it triggers you now. So you want to view it in a joking manner. But talking to people who were involved, letting them in on your emotions at that time helps you also
Yeah.
to process um, what you went through or what is happening or what happened to you. So,
Absolutely.
and you spoke about how the book What Happened to You helped you in terms of understanding certain things and also understanding that with
Yeah.
trauma,
Absolutely.
it's not, you can't be healed tomorrow. You can't go to
No.
therapy today and then tomorrow you're okay. It takes time. Remember, as
Yeah.
children are born as a canvas, a blank canvas.
Mm.
So each and every day, there's something that we basically sketch onto them, and that sticks with them. And for us to erase
Absolutely.
all of those things when they are adults, things that they knew, things that they are like so used to, things that were normal for them, and for you
Yeah.
to come and say what happened to you was not right, it wasn't normal, and now we have to erase it. It's going to take time. It's not an overnight thing.
That's
And
so true. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I
and
couldn't
so
agree more.
yes. And
I
so
couldn't agree more.
we need to also approach healing as something that won't happen overnight. It won't happen
Mm.
tomorrow. It's going to take time, and I don't believe you can be fully healed as a person. I don't even believe
Yeah.
we'll ever be fully completely healed
Oh no,
because
100% not. 100%
hmm,
not. However, there is always this space to for you to make sure that you are cleaning the wounds so that
yes.
they don't become infected,
Mhm,
and so that you don't end up having to lose an arm or a leg or lose
mhm,
both arms and both legs, you know what I mean?
mhm.
And also that's like you've made so many important points, but most importantly, we need to just remember that we have to pace ourselves, give ourselves space, and give ourselves so much room. Um, and also just understand that we all come from somewhere, you know?
Yes.
You shouldn't rush yourself, you shouldn't push yourself. Take one step at a time, put one foot in front of the other, but there's always going to be help. there's always going to be there's always going to be a place where you can go and get help, whether you're going on
Mhm.
the internet, whether you're on a podcast, whether it is going and sitting across a therapist and speaking to them, whether you're going to take other measures, because talk therapy doesn't work for everyone. But
Yes.
there is always
There
that
is
space and
help.
that room, and we
Mhm,
just want people to know that there is help. And just
mhm.
also on that note of the fact that there is help, I think you've said so much and you have given practical tools, but let's just dedicate this time now to talking about what are some tools that the listeners can start using today.
Okay.
What's something that someone can do today to begin their journey, their healing journey?
Mhm. Okay. So, number one, pinpointing exactly what you feel you went through, something that you feel caused you trauma. Okay. And
Okay.
so, journaling about it, unpacking it through journaling, yes, as well as dedicating time to yourself. You cannot work with your trauma if you don't have time to yourself. There's always everything going around for you. You don't have time to
Yeah.
sit in your thoughts. You
Yeah.
know, So dedicating time to yourself. If you are religious or affiliated to a certain religion, then also use that to work
Mm,
on your trauma. You know.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Mhm. So speaking to God, if you believe in God, reading reading also, sorry, reading also is very important, because through reading, especially these books that look into mental health and self-help type of books, really help a lot. There's so much that we can get from there, so much we can get for us to understand what we're going through. um, Especially
Yeah.
this book by Bruce D. Perry and Oprah Winfrey, What Happened to You. Such a profound book.
Mm,
Looks at the conversations on trauma, resilience, as well as healing. And the narrative of what's wrong with me is changed in this book to what happened to
yeah.
me. Um,
Yeah. I absolutely love that about it.
Mhm. Having a community, we can't be
Yeah.
isolated. We need to have people who love us, who understand us, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and with inner child healing, dedicate dedicate your time to it, dedicate yourself to it, dedicate your money to it as well, because in the long run, it's going to help you. And you don't have to be doing the whole things that where you need to be unpacking your trauma and things like that. You can also do something that you can remind yourself of something that you once liked doing as a child. Just making yourself feel
Yeah.
like a child again,
Oh
going
yeah, I
back.
bought a coloring book. I bought a
I
coloring
like
book.
that.
Sorry. I bought a coloring book and I have crayons and Kokis and coloring pencils.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, I'm going to do something that just takes me back to being a child that I really
Yes.
enjoyed doing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to not do it because I want to finish coloring at a certain point in time in the year, or I want to post it on social media. I'm doing it for me
For yourself.
because it brings
Yes.
me so much joy and so
Mm.
much peace. And I also just want to add that adult play is also another thing that can be so
Yes.
helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Adult play is something that will not only give you an opportunity to heal your inner child, but will also just make life that much lighter because
Mm-hmm.
life is very hectic and we need that time to just play and have fun and let loose. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with alcohol or clubbing
Yes.
or
Yes.
whatever the case may be. You can go play soccer, you can go play on the jungle gyms.
Mm.
I mean, if there are adult jungle gyms, then do it. Go jump on a jumping
I
castle.
I went to a 21st party the other day and there was a jumping castle. So
Oh, listen to
yes.
that.
Huh?
Listen to that. Exactly.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think that it's so important for us to give ourselves space. Also to
Yes.
not make, you mentioned that there needs to be a little lightness to it. Trauma there's nothing light about it. There's nothing funny about it. But
Yes.
you need to bring yourself to a place where you go, okay, this is not something that's going to have all this power and hold over me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take it and I'm going to see it as something that I can work through and not
And
something I'm going to hold over myself,
mhm.
and
And tackle
put
it.
myself in a yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
absolutely, and tackle it. So we are at the end of the episode,
Mhm.
and before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts for anyone on this healing journey. What is one truth you want anyone listening to take with them today?
Patience. Be patient with yourself. Show yourself grace and compassion. You are human. Do not rush
Mm,
your healing journey. Show yourself that love that you would have shown to someone else who has been through what you are going through. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being here,
Thank you.
Mmampho. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
So,
me.
yeah, and I really hope that people are going to take so much away from this.
Mhm.
Where can people find you or connect with your work?
People can find me on Psychology Today, so you can just search Mmampho Tswene, and you will find me there. Social media platforms, I'd like to keep those private.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We understand.
But hopefully, as the months go by, I will open platforms on social media that are dedicated to therapy. And
I love that.
so, yeah, once
Yeah.
that happens, then I will let you guys know. But
Okay.
yes,
Perfect. No, thank you so, so much. And I'm also going to leave all of your information in the show notes.
no problem.
So, in terms of your practice, are you based here in Pretoria or are you based in Joburg?
I'm based in Joburg, Boksburg to be specific.
Okay.
And yes, so I
All
will
right.
just also give you that in terms of our practice and where they can find me.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so, so much. I really
Thank
do
you.
appreciate it. It was lovely having you here. And that's a wrap on today's episode. A big thank you to Mmampho for her wisdom, care, and for reminding us that healing is possible and that we don't have to go through it alone. If today's conversation stirred something in you, I really encourage you to be gentle with yourself and to seek support as much of that as you can get. Remember that healing is a journey, and therapy can be one of the safest spaces to begin that process, well, one of many. Whether you're just starting out or deep in the work, know that you are not alone. Thank you so much for listening, for your continued support. I really, really do appreciate it. Please don't forget that A Cupful is available on all listening platforms, so be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you tune in. All the links you need will be in the show notes, so don't worry, I've got you covered. Please, 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 if you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to give it a rating. 5 stars, preferably. I mean, if you want to do 4, I'm fine with that, but I'd really prefer 5. This really also helps the podcast reach other people, and that means that the message, the healing, the growth, all of the good things that the podcast is trying to achieve can reach many, many, many other people. Have a lovely remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to, be kind to yourself and others. That is so, so important. Don't forget that healing is not linear, that it is a journey and it's not a destination. We are always going to be having to work through something, but that it's possible and that there is another side. You don't have to stay in the place where you are dealing with pain, carrying pain, just dealing with all of these things and not knowing how to work through them. There is a way, there is help. And most importantly, keep doing the things that fill your cup.